Ambassador Sarah Chen adjusted her datapad with practiced ease as she entered the Galactic Council's emergency session chamber. The massive crystalline dome buzzed with nervous energy from representatives of 47 different species, their various forms of agitation creating a symphony of clicks, hisses, and electromagnetic pulses that would have overwhelmed most humans. Sarah, however, had spent 3 years learning to read the subtle differences between Zephyrian panic clicking and molluscoid excitement clicks. The emergency had been called by Chancellor Vextar of the Hegemony Coalition after their long-range sensors detected something approaching from the Andromeda Galaxy. Something massive, something that had already consumed 3 star systems in the Outer Rim. "The Devourer fleet approaches," announced Chancellor Vexatar, his forearms gesticulating wildly while his translator struggled to keep up. "Our combined fleets number in the hundreds of thousands, but intelligence suggests the enemy possesses technology beyond our current understanding. They consume entire planets, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake." Murmurs of despair rippled through the chamber. The Aquatic Confederation's representative released a cloud of bioluminescent distress signals into his tank. The silicon-based Eternal Empire's delegate began rapidly calculating probability matrices, their crystalline form flickering between different geometric configurations. Sarah cleared her throat, a sound so quiet it shouldn't have carried in the massive chamber, yet somehow every being present fell silent. "If I may," she said, standing up from her modest seat in the human section, a section that notably contained only her. Earth had been granted membership in the Galactic Council barely 5 years ago, when humanity had finally achieved faster-than-light travel. Most species still considered them primitive newcomers. Chancellor Vextar's eye stalks swiveled toward her with barely concealed annoyance. "Ambassador Chen, while we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, this is perhaps not the time for the junior species to—" "We'll handle it," Sarah interrupted, her tone as casual as if she were declining dessert at a dinner party. The chamber erupted. 30 different species began speaking at once in languages that ranged from subsonic whale songs to patterns of controlled lightning. Sarah waited patiently, occasionally checking her messages while the chaos continued. "Silence," boomed Chancellor Vextar, his voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. "Ambassador Chen, surely you cannot be serious. Your species has barely mastered interstellar travel. You have no significant military presence beyond your own solar system." Sarah smiled, the expression somehow both warm and terrifying. "Oh, we're quite serious. We've actually been tracking the Devourer fleet for about 6 months now. We have several contingency plans in place. The Ethereal Collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a specialized field generator, flickered rapidly, the equivalent of a nervous breakdown. "You've known about this threat for 6 months and said nothing?" "Well, we wanted to see if you'd figure it out yourselves first," Sarah replied, consulting her datapad. "We have protocols about interfering with other species' learning processes. But since you've called an emergency session, I suppose we can bump this up to Code Yellow." "Code Yellow?" squeaked the diminutive representative from the hive mind synthesis. "Oh, it's just our classification system. White is normal Tuesday, yellow is minor inconvenience, orange is actually concerning, red is everyone panic, and black is extinct in 12 hours without intervention." Sarah scrolled through her datapad. The Devourer fleet barely registers as yellow, honestly. Chancellor Vextar's skin had shifted to a pale blue, either fury or incredulity. "You classify a galaxy-consuming armada as a minor inconvenience?" "Well, we've seen worse. Remember the Quantum Cascade event in Sector 7G? That was orange, maybe low red. Oh, and the sentient black hole from last year was definitely red, though we managed to talk it into hibernation before anyone noticed. Sarah paused, looking up from her device. You all really don't monitor trans-dimensional incursions, do you? The chamber had fallen deadly silent. Even the ambient electromagnetic fields seemed muted. The Technological Synthesis Empire's delegate, a cybernetic being whose every word was calculated for maximum efficiency, spoke first. You talked to a sentient black hole, Dr. Patricia. Wong from our xenopsychology department. Turns out it was just lonely. We introduced it to a nice neutron star, and they're quite happy together now, orbiting each other in a binary system we've designated as a nature preserve. Sarah continued scrolling through her datapad. Anyway, for the Devourer fleet, we have several options. Plan A is diplomatic. We've already established contact with their queen and explained about property rights. Turns out they didn't realize the systems they were consuming were inhabited. They thought they were just clearing space debris. You've already made contact? Chancellor Vextar was now a deep purple, which Sarah had learned indicated complete cognitive overload. Oh yes, about 3 weeks ago. Lovely beings, actually. Very apologetic once they understood the situation. They've agreed to redirect to the empty quadrant where they can consume all the dead matter they want without bothering anyone. Sarah looked up brightly. Plan B was to relocate all inhabited planets in their path using our new spatial displacement technology, and Plan C involved introducing them to a nice pocket dimension where they could happily devour replicated matter for eternity. The representative from the warrior clans, a massive insectoid creature bred for combat, leaned forward with clicking mandibles. And if diplomacy had failed? Sarah's smile never wavered, but something shifted in her eyes. Something that made every predator species in the chamber suddenly reassess their position in the food chain. Plan D through Plan Z are more direct, though we really prefer not to use those unless absolutely necessary. The paperwork alone is a nightmare. She closed her datapad and stood up. Anyway, the Devourer fleet should be finishing their course. Correction right about now. They've agreed to send a cultural exchange delegation to Earth next month. Apparently they're very interested in our cuisine. Who knew cosmic entities loved pizza? As Sarah walked toward the exit, the chamber remained, frozen in stunned silence. Oh, she called back over her shoulder. And Chancellor Vexitar? You might want to upgrade your sensor networks. You completely missed the temporal refugee crisis from last Tuesday. We had to resettle about 40,000 beings whose timeline got erased by accident. Nothing major, but the paperwork was epic. The door closed behind her with a soft hiss, leaving 47 species to contemplate the terrifying realization that the primitive humans had been quietly managing galactic-scale threats while everyone else argued about trade routes. In the silence that followed, the Silicon Empire's delegate began recalculating the probability matrices for humanity's actual capabilities. The results were so far outside expected parameters that their crystalline form briefly shifted into a configuration that didn't technically exist in three-dimensional space. Chancellor Vexitar's final color shift was a deep, resigned gold. Perhaps, he said quietly, we should inquire about Earth's consulting services. Outside, Sarah was already on her communicator, scheduling humanity's next low-key save-the-galaxy operation, while wondering if she had time to grab coffee before the afternoon's minor reality stabilization meeting.